generations to come.
Welcome to another edition of the TDN Writers Room. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the TDN. I also co-host the Down the Stretch show on Sirius XM Radio.
Hey, y'all. My name is Randy Moss with NBC Sports. Yes, I do know Mine That Bird was the top horse to come out of New Mexico. We had that question on the show this past weekend, and I kind of was a little slow off the mark there, Zoe.
Come on, Randy. Really? You couldn't find that rabbit hole?
Couldn't find that rabbit hole. It was up here somewhere, but I couldn't pull it out. Yeah.
I used the Senor Buscador one. I asked Michelle Yu, said, do you know what Senor Buscador means? She was like, too slow. No, that's wrong, Michelle. It means Mr. Prospector. So, yeah, I did piggy bank off of you.
And I never got that into the show. Never got it into the telecast.
Oh, well, I got it in for you.
Good.
So everyone down there in the big suites, they all understood that. And some of them bet on him, and he ran massive, which we'll get to in just a bit.
Yeah, no picking on Senior Buscador. He ran a big race.
Yes, he did.
All right, guys. Obviously, let's take a look back at where Randy Moss was on Saturday at Gulfstream Park for the Pegasus card. And, we knew going in that it was something that didn't have a whole lot of star power. But at the same time, what they did to make up for it was they had full field, very competitive racing, and it was a really good day of racing. You'd love to see an Arrowgate type or a gun runner wind up in the Pegasus, but that wasn't to be this year with so many horses retiring and other horses looking for Saudi Arabia. So we go into the Pegasus, and the marquee horse was National Treasure based on his Preakness win. I hated him, didn't think he had any chance whatsoever because I thought he was going to duel for the lead. He did duel for the lead. He put away the horse that won the Cigar Mile and then held off Senor Buscador. I've totally changed my mind on this horse. I thought that was a very, very good effort. And remember, he only lost by a nose to Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I think this horse has come around.
Oh, it was a huge effort by National Treasure. And I was sort of in your boat, Bill. I mean, I didn't think he had no chance, but looking at his past performances, and he made such an easy lead in the Preakness at historically slow pace. And then the biggest race of his life was in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile when he had a clear lead at a shorter distance. I mean, yeah, I knew he fought. He's always fought whenever he was in front and some horses tried to get by him. But in a very stiffly run 1 1/8 with a fast pace that he was a part of, I just didn't know if he really would be hanging around for the last eighth of a mile. And boy, was he, because Senor Buscador came roaring up to him at about the 8th pole. And yeah, Senor Buscador looked like he got a little bit late. It was a very tiring racing surface on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. But kudos to National Treasure. He was even better in the Pegasus World Cup than he was in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Yeah, he was good. Did I trust him going in? No. But watching him work at Santa Anita and knowing how good Bob is at getting his horses ready on the day, he was my top pick in there. And I think the thing that pushed me over the edge was Flavien Prat back aboard him. And he won this race in the third quarter. He knew he had to go with First Mission, who drew inside of him. And they locked horns for the first half a mile. But in the third quarter, Pratt just took a breather, and that was the winning move right there. He's like, okay, I'm just going to grab a hold of my horse. I'm going to let him take a breather, and then I'm going to finish with a flurry. And boy, did he. That was the absolute winning move, giving Hall of Famer Bob Baffert his third victory in the race as far as First Mission. He was involved just a little bit. According to Brad Cox, he didn't handle the track. He didn't handle the kickback, and he will live to fight another day. Tom Ryan said about National Treasure that he's already back here at Santa Anita, and Saudi would be awesome if the horse bounces out of it. But again, they're going to let the horse talk and they'll see what happens moving forward. But it looks like Senor Buscador may go as well. And yeah, it was a terrific race. Randy, you've got something. I can see
Yeah,
the cog turning.
one of the things I don't think we really fully realized, because there were so few dirt races and there were no other two-turn races at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, was exactly how the racing surface was playing. And in hindsight, watching the race, talking to the riders, it was an extremely slow track by Gulfstream standards, a very tiring track. And the riders all came back and said that the kickback on Saturday was punishing. And you can really see that by looking at the chart. I mean, First Mission he was beaten 20 and a half lengths. I mean, when you get past when you get past the first three finishers and you go fourth place, Hoist the Gold, all the way back, every one of those horses ran their last quarter of a mile no faster than 27 and change. Most of them 28 and change, and even some 29 and change final quarter miles. So a lot of those horses were just walking the last part of the race, right? And I mean, National Treasure didn't finish up all that fast because the pace was so fast. But that just underlines to me how game he was to still be in there slugging down the lane when Senor Buscador and Krupe, the second and third place finishers, came from last and next to last, respectively, because of the aggressive pace and because of the tiring nature of the surface. And
one thing about Bob, when he sends horses out, he's not sending a short horse. So sometimes, even if his horses aren't the best, they're just fitter than the rest, and they can outslug it. They've been trained to slug in the morning, and they'll slug in the afternoon.
Now, he's supposedly going to stay in America. I mean, Baffert made a big deal post-race out of saying that he's going to look for races in the United States for National Treasure instead of shipping him over to Saudi Arabia or to Dubai. So we'll see which races they plot out, but that's good news as well. He's the only one of the top 3-year-olds of last year that's really right now. I guess maybe First Mission was one of them, but not really Triple Crown, horses that's still in there. All the rest of them have been retired.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens to him down the road. I mean, a long way to go for Horse of the Year, but I could see him putting together a Horse of the Year type campaign. Want to get to the Pegasus Turf in a second. I just want to make one more point. I talked about how there were no stars on the card. But Gulfstream managed to handle $47.3 million on the program, up 7.8% over last year when they bet 43.8. They have really perfected with this race the idea of the big event, bringing out entertainers that people like me and Randy have never even heard of, but are huge with the 23-year-old crowd type of thing.
Great. Calvin Harris was awesome. It was really a lot of fun in the Carousel Club. Randy, you should have come down and had a little bit of a bop. We left at 9 o'clock. We could have still tucked you into bed. It was really fun.
I thought Calvin Harris was a wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers.
No, he's a tall, skinny Scotsman.
Zoe, had you heard of him before this?
Oh, I'm really hip. Yes, I have. And he's Scottish. Right. He's one of the best DJs in the world.
All right. But anyways, they've perfected putting on a party, putting on a celebration. And, like I said, they didn't need an Arrogate, a Gun Runner, or a City of Light, or a California Chrome to attract that kind of betting action. Okay. The other big race of the day was the Pegasus Turf, of course. And what more can you say about Ryan Moore? My goodness. This was the identical ride he put in the Breeders' Cup turf aboard Augusta Dan. He's got some big cojones, the way he goes through those tight little holes on the rail. And he got the job done. Zoe will get mad at me for saying this. I think it's 99% the horse and 1% the jockey. But in this case, as was the case with Augusta Dan, I think the jockey made all the difference in the world. Only other point I want to make is rarely do I so disagree with bettors. Why on earth was this horse 2-1 and integration was 6-5? Made absolutely no sense. I mean, Warm Heart absolutely should have been the favorite. No knock on integration to finish fifth, but that was crazy the way they bet this race. So I think the overlay of the day 2-1 was Warm Heart.
I absolutely loved her coming in, and I had to watch the head on just to see how much room there was. And once Ryan got her head in that hole, it did open up, but he still had to stay there. And he's just such a smart, tactical rider. He's saying, look, he goes, I know in America, the jockeys come off the rail, which they do. Horses get tired and usually they're finishing slower than they are in Europe. They don't have that finish. She had that kick to get in that hole and go away. She broke the track record that's been held since 2007. English Channel held that track record. She smashed that. It was just an absolutely brilliant ride by Moore. She'll now go to Justify, which, not bad, picking up $1 million in her swan song, and she'll head off to Coolmore. She's already there. So, yeah, terrific. Brilliant ride.
The only question mark, I think, going in about Warm Heart was the question mark that the Coolmore people had, was the question mark that Ryan Moore had. Ryan admitted after the race, and Aidan O'Brien kind of said the same thing, that Ryan wasn't exactly all in on the decision to run her in the Pegasus because of the 1.125 distance. Her best distance is thought to be like 1.5 miles. A 1.25 miles she could handle okay, which she did in the filly and mare turf at the Breeders' Cup. But 1.125 miles was kind of a question mark. Would it be too sharp for her? Would it be too short for her? And Ryan rode her pretty aggressively in the first part of the race to establish a good position, and it wasn't a slow pace. And he was still kind of on the engine at the half-mile pole to get her, to keep her right up in there. And as they were going around the second turn, and he was right on the rail, a couple of lengths off the lead, sitting in third, he commented after the race, he had no worries at all about getting through inside because he had been watching Main Event. And not only do American riders tend to get off the rail, but Main Event was kind of leaning out a little bit during the running of the race. So he knew he would come off the inside. And even at the top of the stretch, right, when we were all saying, oh, man, what's he going to do? I hope he gets through. Does he have room? Ryan Moore I was just fine. I wasn't ready to go then. He knew how much acceleration Warm Heart was going to have once she found the hole. He knew what kind of turn of foot she was going to have. So even at the 3/16 pole, when we were all worried, he was like, I'm not ready yet. I want to wait a little longer. And then sure enough, Main Event drifted off at about the 8th pole. Boom. Before you know it, she's a length and a quarter in front. So another great performance by Warm Heart, easily the best horse in the race. Integration finished fifth rather. Ran a solid race, right? Ran back to his 98 Beyer speed figure, got a rail trip, a little bit of traffic in the running, the last 3/16 of a mile. So maybe he can even do a little bit better than he ran in this particular race. So I think we're going to see some big things from him going forward. Big race from Catnip to finish huge. I mean, he was beaten only a half length and a neck. So 3/4 of a length with a 3-wide trip around both turns. And Catnip showed in that race kind of what he did, what he showed last year, that he's extremely tactical. He can turn on and off. Dettori rode him very aggressively into the first turn and around the first turn to get position. And then he just throttled him down and he dropped back to about 4.5 lengths back and then came on again to finish a good third. So those two, I think, are horses to watch, especially going forward.
I thought there might have been an inquiry because right when they got to the wire, it looks like Frankie was running up on Ryan Moore's heels because I think Ryan drifted out. And you can see in the photo, Frankie's got his mouth wide open and he is yelling for room right there at the wire. Go back and look at that picture. I'm like, my God, Frankie might need to change his britches after this one. But it was a very, very good race indeed.
Well, with all the stakes races on the card, we still have to talk about what happened in the second race of the day. And Randy Moss was nice enough to point out to me that we have to talk about this. And I know why. It was a maiden special weight race. And you get this sometimes this time of year. Speak Easy wins the race for Todd Pletcher, got a 100 Beyer number, beat a horse by the name of Victory Avenue, trained by Gustavo Delgado. That horse got a 97 Beyer number. So, horses racing in late January, is it too late for them to make the Kentucky Derby? Maybe, maybe not. It's going to be a tough go. But again, talk about betting. How does Todd Pletcher send out an international good thing like this? And it goes off at 8-1.
Well,
whereas Victory Avenue was 3-2. Yes.
Go ahead, Zoe.
His works weren't great. His works were not great at all. He'd been outworked several times down there at Palm Beach. He drew the one hole. And you know what? I was looking at him because I bet all the races throughout the day. And I just tossed him in because I know how good Todd is first time out, and you've got Arad. But I didn't like him at all. I liked his other horse that was in that race. I did not like Speakeasy, the Son of Constitution. But sometimes when those gates open, Todd's horses just jump to it. And he ran absolutely massive. Now the runner-up, Victory Avenue, ran huge as well. This is the same race that Mage came out of last year. And he went on to do great things. So it's definitely not too late. He ran his second quarter in 21.9 seconds. He ran ridiculously fast. He ran a ridiculously fast final quarter as well. So if you like Speakeasy, you have to like Victory Avenue as well for Delgado.
Well, Victory Avenue was the good thing. He was the horse everybody was talking about going into this race. Very much the same ownership as Mage, the same trainer, Gustavo Delgado. You know, they were talking up this horse as their Mage of 2024. The clockers were raving about Victory Avenue. And he ran a 97 buyer. He ran gigantic. But Speakeasy, you know, stamped himself as well as a horse really to watch going forward. Because it's 2024 and the way horses are trained nowadays, guys, I don't think it's too late for either of these horses to jump in to the Kentucky Derby picture, assuming that they stay healthy and all that. I mean, I'm sure Victory Avenue will probably come back in a maiden race, and then if he wins, they'll look for his stakes after that. Try to put him on the fast track. But even before the day started, the word was so strong about Victory Avenue that someone involved with Gulfstream Park told me, you know, the best race of the day is going to be the second race. And, you know, I didn't really know what they were talking about. And then I looked at the past performances, and then I started hearing things about Victory Avenue. So, yeah, that's really going to be a key race going forward, I think.
Got one more that won on Saturday at the fairgrounds, just a touch. Watch out for him for trainer Brad Cox. I think we're going to see some of these 3-year-old horses that just broke their maiden jumping through big hoops pretty soon.
He's a son of Justify. Yeah, it looked very, very good.
Do want to remind you that the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. We have huge congratulations to all the horses and the connections of Keeneland sales graduates, as well as newly minted champions, Arcangelo, well done to the connections there, Elite Power, and Up to the Mark on their well-deserved victories at the Eclipse Awards. For those hoping to watch the next generation of champions in action, tickets for the Keeneland Spring Meet go on sale February the 20th for the Keeneland April meeting, which runs from April the 5th to the 26th. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
At Keeneland, a horse will always be measured in hands. Hands that see, that sense, that speak. Hands that hold our sport to a higher standard, not for our sake, but for theirs, for the love of the horse, for generations to come.
As always, the Fastest Horse of the Week segment is brought to you by the fast sires at WinStar Farm, such as Improbable. Here's a nice stat. Improbable is the first horse since Seattle Slew to finish his 2-year-old season as an undefeated Grade 1 winner, and then go on to become a champion older horse, to win an Eclipse Award as an older horse. Improbable did it by winning the Los Al Futurity at 2, and then winning the Awesome Again, the Whitney, and the Hollywood Gold Cup at age 4. Improbable is from the immediate family of Hard Spun. His Damn Rare event is out of a half-sister to Hard Spun, so the bloodlines are there, and he'll have his first 2-year-olds that will hit the track in 2024. Improbable stands at WinStar for $15,000. Now, Improbable was co-owned by WinStar Farm, China Horse Club, and also SF Racing. SF Racing, also the co-owner of our Fastest Horse of the Week. Of course, that would be National Treasure for winning the Pegasus World Cup. National Treasure received a buyer speed figure of 105, just a couple of ticks below the 107 he got, finishing second to Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Well, what would a week be without some drama out of the Bob Baffert versus Churchill Downs saga that's been dragging on way, way, way too long? The week started out with Baffert and his owner, Emir Zidane, announcing that they were dropping the lawsuits that they had filed. I believe Zidane was the main person behind it, that the lawsuits that were still pending to try to get the Medina Spirit decision from the Kentucky Derby reversed. It was an obvious an olive branch that they held out. In their statement, they were actually complimentary to Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Racing Commission. Churchill Downs promptly said, "No thanks, Bob. Thanks, but no thanks. You still can't run in the Derby this year." And I do wonder if Baffert's team thought that statement would get him reinstated for the Derby. It didn't happen. But now, we're doing this on Tuesday. On Monday, yesterday, on July 29th, there was the deadline for owners to move their horses out of Baffert's barn if they wanted to start in the Kentucky Derby. If they were still in Baffert's barn as of today, January 30th, ineligible to run in the Kentucky Derby. Years past, most of the owners capitulated, gave their horses to Tim Yakteen. This year, they are drawing a line in the sand. I talked to several owners yesterday. I talked to Zidane. I talked to Mike Pegram. And then also John Chirwa in the LA Times checked in with Baffert. Not one horse, not one 3-year-old has been taken away from Baffert. Now you're talking about, at this point, he probably has 7 or 8 real Kentucky Derby contenders. They are all staying in his barn. All of them will be ineligible to run in the Kentucky Derby. So this opens up a lot of stories. But Zoe, what happens if Nysos wins the Santa Anita Derby by 12 lengths, is undefeated, and then can't run in the Kentucky Derby? I think that's going to make Churchill Downs look pretty stupid.
Yeah, it most likely will. And I think that is the idea moving forward. Listen, they tried going with Tim. Tim's a great trainer, good guy. Things just didn't work out. The Derby gods did not allow it to happen the last couple of years. So they may as well stick with what they know. Keep the horses in Bob's barn. There's nothing wrong with winning the Travers, winning the Preakness, winning all kinds of other races. And they're going to stick with them. As far as Mike Pegram, his horses never left the barn. He was true and true, one for all and all for Bob. So the rest of the team have opted to stay with Bob. And I personally never thought they were going to leave this year. And I'm glad that decision's been justified. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Obviously, with the drop of the lawsuit against Churchill Downs, I'm sure maybe there was an inkling of hope that they may have slid the door open, Brian Moore style, just enough for Bob to get his nose in. But that didn't happen.
Baffert extended the olive branch, and Churchill Downs Incorporated took it and swatted him with it, basically, is what happened.
Bad boy.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of those owners, it was a matter of principle. They felt that Baffert was being unfairly treated, not just with the original 2-year ban, but then in particular the extension to 2024. And I think it was really a 2-pronged deal. First of all, the 3-year-olds that in the past were transferred to Tim Yakteen, who, as you said, is a good trainer, did not run as well when they left the Baffert barn as they had been running before that. And then secondly,
none of them were stellar anyway. None of them were like big, massive standouts that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then in the last couple of years, Churchill Downs has sort of had its cake and eaten it too, right? I mean, they banned Baffert, but they still got Baffert's best 3-year-olds with a different trainer to go ahead and run in the Kentucky Derby, right? So they really felt no pain in the deal. They really weren't missing out on any of the top horses, like Bill pointed out, which might happen this year with Nysos or maybe some others. So I think maybe the owners felt, hey, this might even keep happening if we keep transferring our best 3-year-olds out of the Baffert barn to other trainers. Churchill Downs is not being penalized at all here. And so I think it was kind of a combo platter as to how we got to where we are right now. A lot of owners being very loyal to Baffert.
Yeah, and I think this blew up in Churchill Downs' face. And, we don't know what's going to happen with these Baffert horses, but it's Baffert. He's got 7 or 8 top contenders. And, we're going to likely have a Kentucky Derby where some of the best 3-year-olds in the country are not in the race. I guess they'll point for the Preakness afterwards. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't think Churchill Downs expected this, and it was kind of I think you should give credit to Baffert's owners for showing their loyalty. It can't be easy to go out and spend $1 million on a horse, have the horse, do well for you, and then you can't fulfill the dream of trying to win the Kentucky Derby. So, anyways, on the Pegasus World Cup broadcast with NBC, Belinda Stronach announced they're going to have a Pegasus-like event on September 28th. At Santa Anita. It's going to be called the California Crown. They haven't decided yet on what the purses are going to be. There's so many moving parts in California with everything that's going on that they have to, sit down and figure out what kind of money can be put towards this. The race that is going to become the version of the Pegasus World Cup will be the Awesome Again. It's a race for 3-year-olds and up. They're going to have a couple turf races. The Eddie D is going to be part of this, renamed, I assume, and the John Henry Turf Cup. They also have a bunch of other stakes races that they normally run during that meet. I'm all for it. I think it's going to be a great afternoon of racing. I think they've proven they know, as we said, they know how to put on a big party, and Santa Anita is a great place to have it. I got one kind of off the wall take on this though. I wish they would have switched the calendar around and made the race the big cap, a race that is struggling so much because of the competition from Saudi Arabia and Dubai. And you can do that. It doesn't have to be run in March. Run it in September and call it the California Crown or the Big Cap California Crown or something like that. And that would breathe some life into a race that really needs somebody to breathe some life into it. Zoe?
I'm looking forward to September the 28th. I have no doubt it's going to be a big day of racing. I mean, we saw at Gulfstream Park, each race, every race I looked up, there was at least $4 million bet on that particular race, regardless of whether it was a stakes race, allowance race, maiden race, claiming race. It didn't matter. The handle was astronomical. And hopefully we can get the same thing out here at Santa Anita for a big day of racing. Yes, the Awesome Again is going to have to be 3-year-olds and up, which is going to be great, not just 3-year-olds. And we're going to have a lot of other races moving forward. It'll be interesting to see what kind of musical talent they get. What I think they really need to do is to get a plane, already charter a plane to bring those horses from Kentucky. They're all going to be in Kentucky, New York. Get a plane already set up and say, hey, come to California. We're going to fly you out there first class on our plane, because that is one of the main problems people get with shipping horses around the country. You can't get them there. It's a nightmare to move horses. Bob's horses had to go through Memphis to get down to Florida. It's just a logistical nightmare to fly horses since we lost Tex Sutton.
Let's talk about first racing and Belinda Stronach here for just a second, right? When Belinda won the power struggle with her father and took control of first racing at Santa Anita and at Gulfstream Park, Frank Stronach was basically a lifelong breeder, and he had been really passionate about the thoroughbred industry. We didn't really know how much passion Belinda would bring to the project. And then when you had all the horse deaths out at Santa Anita a few years ago, there was a big fear that Belinda would just be, this is too much. I don't want to have to deal with all this, right? And if anything, she's actually doubled down on thoroughbred racing in the aftermath of that. For decades and decades, people have been talking about the need to expose new people to thoroughbred racing that knew nothing about it. How do you do it? There have been concerts at racetracks since we were kids. Right? The old Gulfstream Park used to have a concert series out behind the grandstand all the time. She's taken it to the next level. She has put her money where her mouth is, and she's done it. She spent more money on it, and she's done it better than anybody else has ever tried to do it. I don't want to say she gentrified the Preakness infield, but she definitely took the Preakness infield scene to the next level, right? It's blue collar. Not all blue collar, but mostly blue collar in the infield. Then she transferred that sort of to the Pegasus. It's diamond collar at the Pegasus World Cup, right? She's really going for the upscale at the Pegasus World Cup. Some of those couches and some of those tables at the very front are selling for like $40,000-$50,000, and they're selling out, right?
You know who had one of those? You know who was there?
No. In fact, I tried to get through to take a shortcut, and they stopped me cold. They were like, "No,
John Stewart.
You can't even walk through. You got to go around."
Yeah, John Stewart was there. He had one of those bottle service tables. He was having a good old time.
So now at Santa Anita, I guess it might be somewhere in between. Okay, it's not going to be as blue collar as the Pimlico infield. It probably won't be, although it may be, as diamond collar as we see at the Pegasus World Cup. It's going to be fascinating to see how they pull it off.
I'm not going if they don't have Calvin Harris as the entertainment. Yeah, but well said, Randy. They really are trying, and it'll be great to see that they get a big event like this out at Santa Anita during a time of year where that's after Saratoga and Del Mar, so it's kind of otherwise a quiet time of year for horse racing, particularly out in California. So good for them, and let's hope that is a big success, as big a success as the Pegasus has been.
And while we are talking about the Pegasus, and there is a segue here, right? The TDN Riders Room is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. And here's the segue. I'm very busy. We never talked about I'm very busy when we were analyzing the Pegasus World Cup turf. She finished a ground-saving good second with Irad Ortiz behind Warm Heart in the turf. And I'm very busy, trained by Chad Brown, happens to be a Pennsylvania bred. She was bred by Glenn Brock and Mark Toothaker. Just beaten a half length by Warm Heart in that race. If you're interested in breeding in Pennsylvania, you can breed to a registered PA stallion, and you can receive a 40% Breeders' Award for finishing first, second, and third. And, of course, also you can be eligible to that PA Sired PA Bred Stallion Series that we always talk about for 2-year-olds and now for 3-year-olds as well. Check out the 2024 Stallion and Boarding Farm Directory. It's available on the PHBA website at www.pabred.com.
PA Bred, I think we've built a brand at this point.
The state of Pennsylvania has the best breeders program in the entire United States.
Angel of Empire wins the Arkansas Derby and wins it clear.
Caravel in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint.
Pennsylvania and the PHBA have the best state-bred program in the country, bar none. The best Breeders' Awards and Stallion Awards in the country.
Respect the law. He's earned it. A Grade 1 winning juvenile.
Tis the Law pops the cork in the champagne.
A classic winning 3-year-old.
Tis the Law is going to win the first leg of the Triple Crown.
5 triple-digit buyers.
Respect the law. Tis the Law.
The best son of Red Hot Sire Constitution.
He's left the others behind. He's going to win the Run Happy Travers.
Tis the Law.
It's time for the Coolmore Stallion of the Week, and this week that is Tis the Law, whose first 2-year-olds will race in 2024. Tis the Law comes from one of the best sire lines in the book, his sire Constitution. It's one of the best young sires in the game. His grandsire, Tappet, has been one of the most influential and breed-shaping stallions of the past half-century. And his great-grandsire, Pulpit, was a successful stallion at Claiborne Farm. But Tis the Law was a far better racehorse than his sire, grandsire, or great-grandsire. In fact, just like his great-great-grandsire, AP Indy, he won 4 Grade 1 races, including one as a juvenile and the Belmont Stakes at 3. Classic winner Tis the Law stands at Coolmore for what I would think, a very reasonable fee of $20,000.
The TDN Riders Room also brought to you by the Green Group, a tax accounting and advisory firm, which, of course, as we've told you, we'll keep telling you. It specializes in thoroughbred industry, and it is designed to save you money at tax time.
Welcome in now the Green Group Guest of the Week. And we've got a good one for you this week. Oisin Murphy, one of the top European riders, 3-time champion rider overseas, is riding this meet at Gulfstream Park. And we thought we'd bring him in to talk about why he's come to the States and how's he enjoyed his stay here. So, Oisin, a jockey of your prominence, you had a lot of different things you could have chose from this winter, maybe Dubai, maybe stay at home and just take it easy. Why'd you decide to make this journey over to the United States and ride at Gulfstream?
Well, I've never done a stint in the US, and I suppose most young riders, particularly one who wants to get to a high level, does some time in America to learn the tricks of the trade and get some experience on the track and with times. And I never had that opportunity before. And this time round, I was thinking, how would I spend January, or particularly from after Christmas time into early spring? And I thought it'd be brilliant to get some experience out here. And Aidan Butler from Stronach mentioned that they'd like to have me, and Sheikh Fahd, my main employer in Europe, said that he would have some runners. So fortunately, it all worked out, and I've been here a couple of weeks now.
So, Oisin, a lot of people in this country think it's very brilliant to spend a winter, or at least part of a winter, in the sunshine in South Florida. They spend a lot of money to be able to do that every year. How much of this was also sort of a quality of life thing for you, not being on a plane going here and there and getting some sunshine?
Sure. I suppose the bottom line is I have traveled a lot even during my time here. I've been to India. I went to Dubai the day before the Pegasus. So unlike most guys who treat it as a working holiday, I've actually still incorporated a lot of travel, but the weather hasn't been too kind to us, but still a lot better than what it would be in Europe. And even this morning, I was in the water. I spent some time on the beach. So it's been great to freshen up in that sense. With racing from Wednesday to Sunday, and I've been pretty busy, but I've felt it has been great for me to see a new place, a change of scenery, and not have that workload that maybe I associate with my summer months in England.
Oisin, South Florida is a fun place to be. We're here to talk about the horses, but what is one of the funnest things that you've done thus far in South Florida? I know you're big into show jumping. Have you ventured up to Wellington and had a little bit of a crack at Wellington as well?
I got to go kayaking, and we didn't see any alligators, fortunately, but that was quite fun. I tried to push another international rider who's Irish and based here for a few weeks, David Egan. I tried to get him into the water. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but maybe I'll get him out there again and see if I can capsize his canoe.
Oisin, and I'm sure you were aware before you came, it's very hard for a new rider to break into the Gulfstream colony because it has so many great riders up and down the roster. The Ortiz brothers, John Velasquez, Javier Castellano, Tyler Gaffleone. You've won 5 races so far. To me, that's good, considering that you had to come in here without any connections. Are you satisfied with the meet you've had?
No, I'd like to have ridden a lot more winners, but I've tried, and in fairness, I knew coming here that it wasn't going to be easy. Got some really good results on Saturday, which was fulfilling, and I felt like I rode well over the weekend. But of course, I always want to do better. I have huge admiration for the guys I've been sitting close to in the weighing room. I knew coming here that the jockey colony, as you alluded to, was very strong. But I want to do better, and particularly if I got another chance to come here, I'd like to ride many more winners.
A great ride on a tone, by the way, the 34-1 shot, the defending champ in the Pegasus Turf, following Ryan Moore up through the rail there to finish 4th. And he also had a great ride, obviously, on Maj last fall, not only in the QE2 at Keeneland, but also just getting nipped by Master of the Seas in the Breeders' Cup Mile. What's an update on Maj and some of the other horses you're looking forward to riding in 2024?
Yeah, so Maj had a fantastic year last year. She won the Kipco 1000 Guineas, and then she came over to Keeneland and won the Queen Elizabeth. And as you said, she just got beaten the Breeders' Cup Mile. She ran on Friday in Dubai, and she wasn't at her best. They haven't made a firm plan where she'll go from now or what her future is. But I suppose she was an absolute star for me. Porta Fortuna, she won Group 1. She's owned by some American people, and she was great last year. She ran really well at the Breeders' Cup as well, where she was placed. I suppose the chances are she might stay at a mile and try running in the English 1,000 guineas or maybe the Irish 1,000 guineas. I haven't spoken to Donica about her recently, but I'm sure he'll be aiming for something like that. And then maybe if the other 2-year-olds I have to look forward to, Ramatu, she was second in the Prix Morny in France. It's likely I'll be partnering her in one of the early seasons Guineas trials and see how she gets on. And a couple of the old favourites, battle hardened horses, will be staying in training as well, the likes of Middle Earth. So hopefully, I won 6 Group 1s last year. Hopefully with a few horses to look forward to again this year.
What are your plans moving forward, Oisin? You mentioned you went to India. You won the 1,000 guineas in India, which I didn't even know they ran one. You've been to Dubai. Where can we expect to see you next? Obviously, Saudi, Dubai again.
Yeah, February is a very busy month of kind of action in the Middle East. I'll be riding in Qatar, Saudi and Bahrain, and probably Dubai as well through February. But in between all that, I'll be riding in England, and more importantly than anything, my kind of morning track work schedule will begin as soon as I get back. Because we'll be trying to prepare horses for the spring and for those early season kind of stakes races, Guineas trials or whatever. They'll all be doing fast work from now on. So, February is going to be very busy, but I'm looking forward to it. Zoe, I'll be riding here Saturday, and then Lingfield, there's a couple of listed races on Sunday. So there's kind of no let up in my schedule.
Oisin, you said you came here because you wanted to learn. You wanted to get better as a rider. What have you learned during your stay here, and what have you done to make yourself fulfill the goal of being, great rider, even greater?
Well, Bill, more so than anything, it's amazing. I've got through 10 years of my career without ever learning about the horse standing in the gate with their hind legs square, how much faster they can break as a result of that. Obviously, it's apparent to me, or always was, that if they're leaning up against the side of the stalls, they're not going to get out as well as a horse that's standing kind of in the middle. But I never realized that having them standing square behind was so important. And basic stuff like that. Also, maybe, on dirt, I always knew that if you get stopped at any stage, it can be race over for you. But just watching those top riders riding on a daily basis has been great. And I suppose I've ridden for some top trainers while I've been here, and I've enjoyed that. And hopefully now this week I've got some chances as well to ride another winner or two. I just have a lot of admiration maybe for the lads I've been riding against and the people that have been putting me up as well.
Well, you ride against some pretty good lads over in Britain. You made a great comeback in 2023 to be second in the British riding standings behind William Buick. You were the champion jockey in Britain in 2019, 2020, 2021. Then, of course, it was huge news over there that you had to miss all of 2022 due to a suspension for alcohol and COVID-related breaches. What did you learn about yourself during that one year you had to be away?
Yeah, it was the first time I ever had any time away from race riding. I broke my collarbone like 8 years ago, and I came back in 23 days. And other than that, I'd never really spent much time away. So it was interesting because how do I fill the time, and constructively, how do I manage my money? Finally, I don't have an income. I have a tax bill to pay. I have show jumpers and horses, mares to pay for. I really had to grow up, and it was food for thought. And to be honest, I had some great times. I got to jump all over Europe. I rode in Spain and in Portugal. I got to spend time with my family. But by the time it came to renewing my license and getting back in the saddle, I was very ready. Spent a lot of time in the gym. I had a stone to lose, so like 14 pounds, 6+ kilos. And yeah, my first ride back was a winner, and I just got very lucky to get immediate support. I suppose I had, even during my time off, I kept riding gallops for Andrew Balding and any trainers that asked, Saibin, Sarur. So those trainers were good enough to have me in, but then when I was ready to come back, they put me up, which was very important. And I didn't come back with a huge amount of confidence. Like any jockey that tells you that they always believe in themselves, I think isn't telling the truth. You go kind of like a football player, you go through periods where you think you're riding very well, and then periods where you start questioning your ability. And when I came back, I wasn't sure if I was going to be as clinical as I was in the past. Would I be as tactically aware? And, you know, there's all these questions are going through your mind. But fortunately, those first couple of months went very well. And Maj won the Guineas in the beginning of May, and it all kind of rolled along. But still, the middle of the season, you know, Royal Ascot time, even in June, I had 6 seconds before I got on the score sheet. And if you ask me honestly, guys, looking back, I'd have said I rode better Royal Ascot 2023 than I had done ever before. You know, lots of those horses had the perfect run, and I just wasn't getting them home in front, whereas maybe in years gone by, I got the rub of the green and I might have made an error, sat in a position that wasn't ideal, but they still won. So you kind of have to take the rough and the smooth and try and believe in yourself. And yeah, hopefully this year I can ride better than last year.
Sounds like you're a bit of a perfectionist there, Oisin. You're very hard on yourself.
Yeah, well, no, listen, you know, small things make the difference between winning and losing. And if you take Irad or Ortiz or Ryan Moore or Frankie or someone, they don't make an awful lot of mistakes. And, you know, that's kind of what you're looking to achieve.
For someone who doesn't know you, Oisin, just give us a broader view of yourself as a horseman. You mentioned mares. We know you're big into show jumping. Like what is your life like?
Okay. So I buy and sell show jumpers. I try and do it at a decent level. So from maybe 140 centimeter horses up to the best, which is 165. That's kind of what we're aiming towards. And I'll buy horses often to sell to America if they're easy enough to ride, or rideability is key. And then I have an interest obviously in young horses. So I will buy breeze up horses privately and then sell them on maybe a couple of weeks later. I did that with Dragon Symbol. I won the Commonwealth Cup with him. I actually got demoted in the stewards room afterwards for Lady Aurelia. Yeah, I try and buy at a decent level, and then hopefully the horses achieve. I'm very interested in the breeding side of it, and kind of all equestrian sports, from eventing and dressage, and yeah, the whole way along. I kind of love the high level athletes, human and equine.
Oisin, will we see you back at Gulfstream next year?
It's an interesting one, Bill. I'll definitely aim to come back and do a similar stint that I did. You know, there aren't. I'm not going to earn loads of money in the month of January here, but I think the connections I can develop or hopefully keep and grow if I return will serve me well in the future, because you know, some of those top jockeys I are going to retire in the next number of years, the likes of Johnny V and Frankie Dettori, and those top races like the Saudi Cup, Dubai World Cup, Breeders' Cup Classic are worth an awful lot of money. And if one day if I have enough experience on dirt and can prove myself, hopefully I can stick my hand up or put my hand on the phone and say, hi, whatever trainer or owner, is your horse available in this race? I'd love to ride him, So that's kind of what I need to be looking towards. Yeah.
So I want to ask one follow-up question about what Zoe asked about your lifestyle. Look, I'm involved in the coverage of equestrian sports in this country during the Olympics, the show jumping, the eventing, the dressage. To me, it's fascinating that you're so involved with the show jumpers. I don't think I've ever heard of a professional rider, flat rider, who's that involved in that part of the equestrian world. And then I also read that you would love to actually be a jump rider, maybe even at Cheltenham this year.
Yeah.
Is that still in the offing? And how did all this come about?
Well, my uncle, Jim Cullity, won 3 Gold Cups as a jockey and then another Gold Cup as a trainer, and he won the Grand National as a jockey as well. So I grew up watching him on television, and I was lucky when I was a small child. I kind of followed my show jumping dream, and we bought and sold ponies through my teenage years, many of them actually to the US. And lots of the guys I grew up with jumping those ponies are now based in America as show jumpers. So I know all those guys, and I followed their careers, and maybe when I could afford to start buying a few jumpers, I was on to those guys if they could help me or if they had any advice or whatever. And yeah, then with the jump racing side of it, my sister manages a race course. Her name's Oisin, she's 25, and I managed to get myself on a horse at Wincanton that I thought would win, which was her track, for a boy that that basically lived down the road from us growing up, and it was all going to work out, and hopefully the horse was going to win. And it rained for about 72 hours, and it never happened. The race was cancelled. So maybe when I get back sometime in February, I'll be able to do that. And if that went well, then of course I'd look at trying to ride something at Cheltenham. But time is running out, and yeah, the jump jockey dream thing, to tell you a bit more, before I came back in February last year, I was writing my will, and I realized that the solicitor was saying, oh, is there anything, you haven't done that you'd like to do before you die? And I thought, God, there is actually. I'd like to ride in a jumps race, and I've been putting it off for years, and it can never happen because I don't even have my license. It's a separate thing. So when I finished with him, I contacted the British Horse Racing Authority, and I asked them, would they license me? And they said, no, you have to do a course. You have to prove that you can jump. So I did that, and they granted it to me. And yeah, one day you will see me in a jumps race. Hopefully it'll be soon, but let's see.
Zoe, I think we should start a Twitter campaign to get him on Constitution Hill at Cheltenham.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be amazing?
I'm very friendly with the owner, but I'm afraid Nico de Boinville will put up quite a fight to stop me doing that. Yeah.
I know some guys.
Yeah. Please make it happen. Yeah.
You might break a finger.
Yeah.
Well, Oisin Murphy, thanks so much for joining us here on the TDN Writers Room podcast. I think you've done great at Gulfstream. You got a mount on Saturday for Todd Pletcher, so you are certainly knocking on the right doors. Congratulations on past success, and I do hope you come back next year to Gulfstream. It's always great to see some new talent in the riding room. Once again, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Oisin.
Watch out for those alligators.
I know. Goodness gracious.
As the Green Group Guest of the Week, Oisin Murphy will receive a free 1-hour text consultation with the Green Group. You might ask, does Len Green know anything about the British tax code? Well, Oisin Murphy's riding in the United States and making some money in Florida, so he might have to know something about the U.S. tax code. Len Green might be the man here. Free consultation. For more information on how the Green Group can save you money, www.greenco.com.
Are you paying too much in taxes? The Green Group can help. There's a reason the most successful owners, breeders, and horsemen select the Green Group as their tax advisors. They save you money and share successful strategies. Over the past 40 years, the Green Group founder, Len Green, has owned and bred some of the best racehorses in the history of the sport, like Eclipse Award-winning champions Jaywalk and Wonderwheel. His DJ stable competes at the highest level and has received the game's most prestigious honors. Len Green's in-depth, hands-on industry knowledge, combined with cutting-edge tax-saving strategies, has produced positive results for his clientele and has made the Green Group the top-rated accounting and tax firm in the thoroughbred business. For a confidential and complimentary consultation, contact us at 732-634-5100 or visit our website at www.greenco.com. The Green Group, proven strategies to save you taxes.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
Kentucky breds once again asserted their superiority in Grade 1 races around the world this week in the Group 1 Al Maktoum Challenge at Maidan. It was Carib Khan who came home first. And, of course, National Treasure took home the top prize, as we've said, Kentucky bred in the Pegasus World Cup. Also in Dubai, Mendelssohn Bay won the UAE 2000 Guineas, and Mohib took the Group 3 Firebreak Stakes. Kentucky Bred's winning all over, and you can find your next Kentucky Bred at the Fasig-Tipton, Kentucky Winter Mixed Sale. Those dates are February 5 and February 6. Kentucky Breds, breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
Well, it's time for First Things First. While myself and Randy were having a whale of a time at the Pegasus, the four-legged namesake was winning a race at Santa Anita. Myself and Doodle set out to find out more about Shamu.
Newgrange has plenty left in the tank, and it's back-to-back in the San Pasquale for Newgrange under Victor Espinoza.
Hi, Shamu. All right, Phil, back-to-back for Newgrange. It looks like he's made this year a winning one already.
Yeah, I think he's kind of found his stride and his confidence and came out of the race in good shape.
Did you ever have any doubt he wouldn't make the lead and Victor aboard him?
Yeah, I mean, Victor's great about getting early position, so we all thought it was a good fit. And when he was where he was at the three-quarter pole, I was very happy, and it just it unfolded perfectly and had enough in the stretch to hold off Newgate and get the job done.
Who was the happiest person in your barn, Phil?
Oh, of course, my wife. She gets on him every day. She's been his that's been her project, and she's great with these big horses. She also gallops pretty much all my stake horses, Desert Dawn and the likes, and takes her time, gets along with them, and gets the job done.
What's one of his quirks? Like, why is he a project for Sherry?
He's just kind of a horse that early on he kind of wanted to do things his way all the time, and she got him, to do things our way. And his gallops just kind of, get into a more comfortable stride early and finish strong. He kind of wanted to do things the opposite, when we got him, and we've gotten him to relax and finish better.
What's the plan? So we going to Dubai?
I'd say we're definitely leaning towards that way. We got plenty of time, but coming out of the race in good shape. And, he's a horse. I don't think a mile and a quarter would hurt him any. He's got that big, long stride, nice tactical speed. Does not need the lead, but he needs to be forwardly placed. But all those things are good traits to have when you run in big races.
Did you have to buy in mind even before the race? Because you put Victor on, and Victor in my mind's a good rider, but he's certainly not hot at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Victor's good friends with the owners and has a good rapport with them. I've won graded stakes with Victor in the past. And, to draw on his experience in big races like this, that's what you need. And that proved very useful.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.
Hello, Shamu. Great to find out about Shamu there, and a really, really good to talk to trainer Phil D'Amato. Well, Santa Anita does continue this weekend. We'll have a 12:30 post time on Friday, and on Saturday, it's the first racing tour. The first leg kicks off with races from Gulfstream Park, and of course, Santa Anita will have 4 stakes here, highlighted by the Bob Lewis, which we will get to in just a moment. Guys?
Well, it's going to be a big weekend of racing with 4 Triple Crown Kentucky Derby prep races on tap. This is definitely going to be the biggest weekend of the year so far for the 3-year-olds. We've got the Holy Bull at Gulfstream Park. We've got the Southwest at Oaklawn, the Robert B. Lewis at Santa Anita, and the Withers at Aqueduct. Let's start with the Holy Bull, because that's where we find last year's 2-year-old champion, Fierceness. He'll be making his first start of the year for Todd Pletcher, and coming off the big win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Eclipse Award winner, etc. There's some other fairly nice horses in the race. Otello is 2 for 2 for Christophe Clement. He'll be interesting. Hades for our old friend John Green won an allowance race last time out by 8, albeit it was for Florida breds, but got a pretty good buyer figure of 84. But Zoe, no reason whatsoever to believe that Fierceness just wouldn't dominate against this field. He's just a lot better than them. How cranked up will he be? That's always a question, but Todd's horses are always ready to go. But other thing, don't keep in mind, only 2 Breeders' Cup juvenile winners in 40 years have come back to win the Kentucky Derby. Can he be number 3? Well, certainly looks like he's got a good chance, but it's just a starting point. But I think we're going to see an easy win from him over match competition.
He definitely looks like the horse to beat. Delighted, that Johnny V has a Kentucky Derby mount, probable Kentucky Derby mount going forward, all things going well. Looks like the horse to beat, but he's thrown in clunkers before. He's been working right along for trainer Todd Pletcher, who seems to be just brilliant at getting horses ready off of 4 furlong works. But there's a work in here that jumps off the page down there at Palm Beach. It's not often you see a horse working 59-2, because that is a slower racetrack. And even when Todd works horses on fast racetracks, they don't work that fast. They go 101 and gallop out in 116 and gallop out in 127 and then the mile in 140. That's how he gets them ready. That 59 and change just jumps off the page for me. I do like Hades in here. If you listen to Mike Rapoli's long speeches on Eclipse Awards night, you may have heard him mention Ocala Stud, who do an awful lot of work for them in prepping the babies and also breeders on good horses. They are the breeders on Hades, a son of Awesome Slew, who is an underrated Florida bred sire down there. They paid only $130,000 for him. And Hades does look like he could be better than that state bred allowance race he just had. I mean, he ran a pretty good number there, 84 by a speed figure.
Yeah, we're doing this race on NBC. As a matter of fact, we'll have 6 races we're doing on Saturday, including the Robert B. Lewis out at Santa Anita. We'll do the last 4 at Gulfstream and then a couple from Santa Anita. And looking at this race, I was going to say Fierceness was 1-5, but I think that's being conservative. I think he's probably going to be, 1-10 or 1-20. I think when they finally leave the gate in here, he's that much of a favorite on paper. His Breeders' Cup Juvenile was just awesome. And yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of history there for Breeders' Cup Juvenile winners going to the Kentucky Derby. And the last 3 Breeders' Cup Juvenile winners that Todd Pletcher has trained didn't even make it into the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby, right? So we'll see how Fierceness can go, going forward, how he can do going forward. Because of the short price, if you're going to bet the race, I think the only real way to do it is just to concede the race to Fierceness and then just figure out, okay, who's going to run second behind him. And I share your opinion about Hades' allowance win against Thoroughbreds. He looked very good. When he broke his maiden, he got in trouble early. So he was much better than that, and he showed that the next time he ran. But here's what I'm concerned about, and you see this all the time gambling. Hades might be the second best horse in the race, okay? But the way the race is going to be run, Paco Lopez is going to go to the lead probably from post one on Hades. Hades has speed, and Paco's a speed rider, and he has post one. Fierceness, though, is going to be locked right up on his outside. And Fierceness is better than Hades. And when they say go on Fierceness, if they can even keep him off the lead down the backstretch, it's probably, a lot of times it'll break the heart of the horse that was in front. So even though Hades might be the second best horse in the race, I don't think he's the best candidate to finish second when he's got to lock horns early with Fierceness. So to me, I think there are 3 or 4 horses that came out of the Mucho Macho Man. And if you go back and you watch the Mucho Macho Man, Otello was about 3 or 4 lengths the best in there, probably. I mean, Inveigled also had a little bit of traffic trouble, but Otello, 2 starts, 2 wins, both times got in some serious trouble. Christophe Clement said the horse must like getting in trouble because he seems to find it, but he always so far he seemed to get himself out of it. So to me, that's the almost a gimme exacta. Fierceness over Otello.
All right, let's head to Oaklawn, the Southwest Stakes. I can't get used to this. A Grade 3 race with a purse of $800,000. Are they giving away serious money at Oaklawn? This race was scheduled for a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when they had all that crazy weather at Oaklawn. They had to cancel. They rescheduled it for this weekend. Unlike the Fierceness race, Holy Bull, a much more wide open field. Carbone is undefeated for Steve Asmussen. That horse will certainly take some money. I'm going to be interested. I'd like to see Just Steel do something here because it's just the Triple Crown is more fun when Wayne Lucas is involved. It's been an erratic horse, but his last couple races are probably good enough to make him a contender here. Randy, what did you come up with in the Southwest Stakes?
As it often is at Oaklawn Park in the Southwest or the Rebel, I think it's going to be all about Baffert. He's shipping in Winstock from Southern California, who won the Los Al Futurity. Really fought pretty gamely, defeating Stronghold in that race. Got a nice number. He'll be on the engine, as all Baffert horses are. I think he deserves top billing, and he's 4-1 right now on the program line. I don't expect that to really happen when Baffert ships horses to Oaklawn. It's amazing the success level that they have. And a lot of the other leading contenders in here have early speed as well. I mean, Carbone is coming off a nice win last time out in an allowance race at Oaklawn, going a mile. He went wire to wire. A big number at the fairgrounds for Maycox Bay, a Mike Stidham horse who won an allowance race there. He went wire to wire. So it's Mystic Dan was right up on the pace in the Smarty Jones. So you should get a pretty contentious pace in here. But still, I think the way Baffert's horses typically run at Oaklawn, Winstock is going to be the one to beat.
Listen, he will not take kickback. He won't take any dirt in his face. That was his problem with his first 2 starts around 1 turn. When Carl Frey won on him, he just sent him to the lead and he ran off. In the Los Alphas Turity, he got Carl Frey again and he managed to rate him just a little bit that day. He was much the best coming from the 1 hole. I just checked the weather really quickly because it always rains on a Saturday when there is a 3-year-old Kentucky Derby prep at Oaklawn. I can't tell you how many years I was there when just got absolutely sopping wet. It's going to rain on Saturday. Winstock by Solomini, who's by Carlin out of a flatter mare. That is like off-track breeding like you've never seen before. I believe he's the horse to beat. He'll certainly be in there for as long as he can. He's a big, huge horse with a head only a mother could love. So he could easily win by that giant head of his. It's Winstock for me, but Carbone is a very good horse for trainer Steve Asmussen. a lot of people will be looking at the breeding and thinking, oh, Matoli, he never went long. Never really got the shot, but he was pretty damn good going a 1-turn mile. We all remember that. So I got no problem with Carbone stretching out. He's already won going a mile at Oaklawn, and he's going to be extremely tough as well. Those would be the top two for me.
Winstock is a New York bred. Don't see many of those in the Bob Baffert barn, but cost a pretty penny at the sale, $700,000 at Ocala April. Zoe, we don't have the PPs out yet, so I got to rely on you. What do you know about the Robert B. Lewis?
Well, I reached out to the racing secretary, Jason Egan, this morning, and he gave me the list of probables. Bear in mind, we're taping this on Tuesday morning. We have Ace of Clubs, Better Than Gold, Coach Prime, who was third in the Los Alfuturity to Winstock last out for Baffert, Moonlit Sonata, a maiden winner. Nisos is going. I also reached out to Bob Baffert and said, is Nisos going? And he said, yes. And then you have Scatify for Sadler. So it looks like Baffert will be trying to win on not only Southern California, but also at Oaklawn, which is something he has done many times before, winning both of those. So Nisos will definitely be the one to beat in there.
So right now, I mean, on February the 3rd in 3-year-old prep races, it looks like we might have arguably the number 1 and the number 2 contenders early for the Kentucky Derby in Fierceness in Florida and in Nisos in California.
Right. So it's going to be a good Saturday. The first Saturday, you'll be on NBC, right? CNBC? Santa Anita and Gulfstream?
I think that's right.
Remember, this is the race last year where there was a 4-horse field, all 4 trained by Bob Baffert. So it's nice to see we get a little bit more diversity into this race. But Baffert, nice. You know, the thing about Nisos, it'll be his first race around 2 turns. So we'll learn a little bit more about him coming up on a Saturday.
And they already have the Preakness circled on their calendars.
Absolutely. And I have a segue for you. I'm just catching up to Randy. The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by XBTV. And guess who the XBTV workout of the week is? It's Nisos, who drilled 5 furlongs in 59-3 for Bob Baffert on Sunday. Now, he's won his past 2 races by a combined 19.25 lengths, and looks like he will be going forward in the Bob Lewis. And if you just watch him, he was a little late switching leads there, but he did finally switch leads and just draw away from his workmate. As always, Bob working the better horse on the outside. Nisos does look outstanding going forward into the Bob Lewis.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
TDN Writers Room also brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. A couple of big wins in New Orleans for West Point this past weekend, courtesy of Foxfire, that's trained by Cherie DeVoe, and SWOT Analysis, who is trained by Mark Cassie. Coming up now, West Point has a lot of irons in the fire this weekend. On Saturday on the Southwest Undercard is the $150,000 King Cotton Stakes at 6 furlongs. Jackson Traveler is co-owned by West Point, right? Trained by Steve Asmussen. Steve Asmussen and trainer Chris Hartman have 6 of the 8 starters total in the King Cotton. Also, West Point has 3-year-old sprinter Legalize, who won the Sugar Bowl at the Fairgrounds. He'll be one of the favorites in the Swale Stakes on the Holy Bull undercard at Gulfstream Saturday. A couple of races before that, Born Noble, co-owned by Windstar. Trained by Todd Pletcher. This was the horse that got the 93 Beyer speed figure in his career debut. Todd told Jerry Bailey and I this past weekend up at Palm Beach Downs he was looking for an allowance race for the horse. He hoped it would fill. Well, it did. And it's on Saturday's card, an 8-horse field going that one-turn mile distance at Gulfstream Park. Merit, a horse that had a 10-length maiden win for Saffie Joseph at Gulfstream, is in there. And so is a horse called Ari's Magic, who had an impressive maiden win at Tampa Bay Downs for Christophe Clement. So Born Noble has a little bit of competition in there on Saturday. If you're interested in joining a West Point partnership and being vaulted into the world of instant camaraderie, you can visit westpointtb.com for more information.
Well, guys, that's a wrap on this week's show. I want to thank my partners, Randy Moss and Zoe Cabin. Zoe, thanks for going up on the platform and getting our Eclipse Award last week. And thanks also to Anthony and Aaliyah LaRocca, who joined you. And it was great to see you guys with those big smiles on camera. And that was my highlight of the Eclipse Awards, not Mike Rapoli's F-bombs. How about that?
Well, Randy was there. Randy, picked up 2. And so kudos to Randy.
We can't compete. We can't compete with Randy. We just can't. So.
I was sitting at my table cheering for the TDN crew as they were accepting.
It was a lot of fun. So just glad to be there. Great weekend. Your glasses you're wearing, you need to wear more often, Bill. They look good on you.
Thank you. All right. Once again, want to thank Randy and Zoe, our Green Group guests of the week, Oisin Murphy, our producers, Katie Petruniak and Anthony LaRocca, and our editors, Aaliyah LaRocca and Nathan Wilkinson. Should be a great weekend of racing. We'll talk more about it next week on the TDN Writers Room podcast. Thanks for joining us.